If you're looking for a 7-seater family car and your budget is limited to 1.3 million and below, your options are limited to MPVs. Now, what if you want the pricing and the practicality of an MPV, but prefer the styling of a crossover? This over here might be your answer. This is the all-new Honda BR-V. It's Honda's latest crossover. It's Honda's latest crossover / MPV. Is it worth your money? Let's find out. The BR-V stands out in Honda's lineup as it is one of their few non-global models. This one is tailor-made for developing markets like the Philippines. We tend to have large families, so we love our 7-seaters, and we also love affordable pricing. So this should be right up our alley. One more thing that we like are SUVs, and maybe Honda took note of that when designing the BR-V. Now here's the old BR-V next to the new one. You can see a lot of styling changes, and thankfully it no longer has that kink in the window line. Like most of Honda's new models, the styling is quite subdued, a far cry from the quasi-futuristic styling of some of its competitors. However, I think it stands out because of its overall shape. Unlike some of its competitors where the DRLs are over here and the headlights are somewhere down here, the layout of the BR-V's face is more conventional. So you have the headlights where you would expect them to be, up here. By the way, all variants get LED headlamps with LED DRLs, but only the top spec variant gets automatic on-off and automatic high beam headlamps. All variants get LED fog lamps. They all get the same grille with this chrome accent that spans across the width of the car. All variants except for the base manual variant get the same 17-inch wheels wrapped in 205/55 Bridgestone Turanza tires. You get disc brakes at the front and drum brakes at the back. Now as for the suspension, you get a McPherson strut suspension here at the front, and at the back you get a torsion beam suspension. Okay, so here on the side is where the BR-V looks most different from its competitors. It now has a longer and more horizontal hood. The greenhouse is a bit smaller. You get high ground clearance. You get these prominent wheel arches. It now looks more like a crossover or an SUV, which I think makes it stand out in this price bracket because its competitors look more like minivans. Now as for the dimensions, this is bigger than the previous gen BR-V. It is longer by 34 millimeters, wider by 45 millimeters, but only 8 millimeters taller. The V variant gets power folding side mirrors with side repeaters. It gets chrome door handles. It also gets a smart entry system, so you don't have to get the key out of your pocket to open it. You can just press this button to lock or unlock the vehicle. You also get a roof rack up here. The BR-V breaks away from the current trend as it doesn't have a light bar or even a chrome bar here between the tail lamps. What you get are two distinctly separate LED tail lamps. You have empty space in between, except for this Honda logo over here. By the way, the tail lamps look very similar to the tail lamps of the Honda City. Down here you get plastic cladding and this faux skid plate, which give the BR-V a more rugged look. Now all variants of the BR-V get a manual liftgate. Now in here, I would say you have enough space for at least 2 medium-sized luggage bags. Okay, so in here it looks like you have enough space for at least 2 medium-sized luggage bags. Of course, if you need more space, you can fold the third row seats. And if you need even more space, you can fold the second row seats. Now you don't have a completely flat flooring, and because of its smaller greenhouse, with all the seats down, you don't have as much space as most of its competitors.
So all variants of the BRV come with the same engine. It's also the same engine that you'll find on the Honda City and also the HR-V S. This is a 1.5 liter, 4-cylinder, naturally aspirated gasoline engine. It puts out 120 horsepower and 145 Newton meters of torque. Like most Hondas, it's coupled to a CVT transmission. So, the interior of the BRV looks very car-like or crossover-like. You got a relatively small and low dashboard, and the greenhouse is not very big. Still, space is quite generous. I have about 5 inches of headroom here at the driver's seat. And one more good thing about the new BRV is that you can now adjust the seat height. So if you need more headroom, you can just lower the seat. You're sitting relatively low compared to other MPVs. In terms of materials, you get a leather-wrapped steering wheel on the mid-spec variant. You have controls here for infotainment screen. You don't get cruise control. You get an analog speedometer, an analog tachometer, and a monochrome multifunction display at the center. You got a 7-inch screen. It has Apple CarPlay, it has Android Auto. You also get a reverse camera. You don't get active guidelines though. You get single zone climate control. You don't get knobs, you get buttons for adjusting the temperature and the fan speed. Down here you get 2 USB-A ports, one 12-volt outlet, and you get some storage here for your phone. You have 2 cup holders over here, a manual handbrake. Thankfully you get an armrest, even though it's quite narrow. Storage underneath the armrest is quite limited. The dashboard is mostly made of hard plastic, but the touch points are mostly covered in padded leather. Like this is leather wrapped and padded. Also on that side, the armrest, of course the steering wheel. Also the seats are covered in leather. I'm pretty sure it's synthetic, but it feels nicer than some of its competitors. It feels rather thick and the bolstering is quite good. Of course, both front seats are manually adjustable. You got a push button start on the mid-spec variant. Okay, so here at the second row, space is quite adequate. Legroom, I have about 4 or 5 inches. You get one 12-volt outlet down here. No USB ports. You get a blower fan unit over here, but you only get 3 air vents. Your fan speed controls are over here. Now headroom is quite decent still. I have about, I'm guessing 4 inches of headroom. You do get a center armrest, but you don't get cup holders. Okay. The second row seat has a 60-40 split, and the 40 part tumbles forward for easier access to the third row. Okay, so here at the third row, it's surprisingly not bad. It looks worse than it is. I have a bit of knee room, but I also have plenty of room down here for my feet. And also the flooring is not that high, so my knees are at a comfortable angle. Headroom is quite decent. I have about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of headroom. You also get cup holders over here, also on the other side, and you get one 12-volt outlet over here. You don't get one on that side. Okay, so let's test the turning radius of the car. Okay, so we have this very small rotunda over here. Let's see if we can do this in one turn. Yep, it's doable. Oh look, we have an empty road in front of us. It looks like the perfect place to do an acceleration run. Okay, 0 to, I don't know, 80. 1, 2, 3, go. $60 kph, 80, brakes, yeah. Okay, so it's not quick, but I don't think anyone's expecting it to be quick. I think for a lot of people,
The power figures of the BRV may seem unimpressive compared to turbocharged crossovers, but compared to other MPVs in the same price bracket, it is actually class-leading. Now don't expect to get pushed back into your seat under hard acceleration, but it does have enough power to get you up the steep ramp with very minimal effort.
So you can see I'm at 1,500 RPM. The engine is not struggling. Very light throttle application.
Ride quality is decent, NVH levels are okay, as long as you're not flooring it. If you do floor it, you do get that recognizable CVT drone. The BRV sells for 1.1 to 1.3 million pesos. At that price bracket, it has a lot of competition, but I think what makes it stand out are, number one, the looks. For the price of a 7-seater MPV, you get one that looks like a 7-seater crossover, which tend to be priced higher. The second thing that makes it stand out is Honda sensing, which is currently only available on the top spec variant. Even if it's the top spec variant, it's still currently the most affordable 7-seater vehicle with ADAS. We'll get to find out more about the BRV when we get a lend out, which will hopefully happen soon.